It didn't ask for permission. It never does. What opened wasn't some ceremonial event waiting on a calendar. It was a shift so immediate, so present, it caught even the most attuned minds in its undertow. The energy doesn't operate on human timelines. It pulses when resonance builds, when silence thickens, when something just beneath the surface signals that it's time. And that time, well, it's no longer approaching. It's unfolding right now. Today is the moment where gravity changes direction, where invisible tides begin to speak louder than thoughts, where subtle becomes unmistakable. But pause here. Has anything felt a little off lately? Not broken, just different, like the air itself is thinking about something. If so, it might not be imagination. Something deeper is stirring. No, this isn't about waiting for a full moon to reach perfection. Nature rarely works in clean crescents and poetic symmetry. The pressure point has already been touched. The gate, whatever that really means, isn't about spectacle. It's about timing. Not human time, but inner time. If presence had a sound, today would be its quiet crescendo. That sense of something moving behind the scenes, it's not just collective intuition, it's architecture. And if missed, it doesn't circle back like a train schedule. This isn't a moment that repeats, it selects, it lifts. And if that feels unnerving, maybe that's because the part that's waking up was never asleep to begin with. It's tempting to dismiss the tension as a passing ripple, just another emotional glitch in the background noise of daily life. But let's be honest, something about this current feels more deliberate. Not louder necessarily, just denser, as if space itself is holding its breath. The atmosphere carries an edge, like it's been encoded with information most won't consciously register. Still, the ones paying attention, they're already feeling it in the body, in strange dreams, in sudden instincts that seem to arrive from nowhere, but carry too much weight to ignore. What's shifting isn't minor. It's a rearrangement of subtle architecture. And no, this isn't about a casual new beginning. It's a signal, one that invites, then accelerates. Ever had that experience where reality seems to glitch? Not outwardly, but in the emotional tone of things? That's this. That's now. So what happens when the moon finishes its work? When the final crescendo fades? That's the part nobody seems to be talking about, and that silence is suspicious. Jun 6 doesn't just complete a cycle, it activates something coiled and quiet that's been waiting for just the right harmonic to stir. If social dynamics feel off lately, if others seem distant or overly reactive, consider this. Collective fields don't lie, they echo, and those echoes are picking up momentum. This isn't drama, it's pattern recognition. There's a reason the days after the peak might feel more intense than the climax itself. That reason will become clear soon enough. But until then, has the behavior of others started making less sense lately? If so, don't rush to explain it away. The air is charged and it's choosing what it wants to touch next. What's coming next might just be the missing piece you didn't know you were looking for. Hit subscribe because the next message wasn't meant to be missed. Something unusual is piercing the veil right now. It's not just those who are typically attuned to subtle shifts. It's the ones who never looked up, never paid attention, never cared. Lately, even the most grounded people are trailing off mid-thought, their minds wandering to places they don't have language for. There's a sudden rise in ambient curiosity, like the world itself has changed channels without warning. People who once dismissed inner knowing are now tracking feelings they can't trace. Someone who normally scrolls past anything remotely mystical might find themselves sitting in stillness, unsure what they're waiting for. But knowing something's arriving, it's not about belief systems anymore. This signal is bypassing beliefs entirely. It's bypassing intellect, and that's why it's working. Conversations are becoming fragmented in an oddly synchronized way. Ordinary interactions are breaking open, revealing questions that were never voiced before. Some have begun describing sensations that don't come with language, as if insight is arriving in the form of energy rather than explanation. This isn't just emotional intensity, it's activation, but not in the sense of adrenaline or urgency. It's deeper, it's slow burning, And if this all sounds vague, that's by design. The next pulse of this cycle is heading straight for a domain most people don't associate with transformation at all. Think about that for a moment. What area of existence feels least likely to be touched by a cosmic recalibration? Now consider, what if that's the one being stirred right now? The pattern has reversed. It's no longer about signaling intentions to some far-off source and waiting for a delayed ripple to find its way back. The echo is immediate now. A thought doesn't just linger in the atmosphere, it returns with form. There's a strange kind of compression unfolding in the energetic field, where cause and effect are folding in on each other. Old systems taught that alignment had to be earned, summoned through consistent action or ritual precision. But this rhythm is different. It listens in the moment. It reflects not the performance of belief, but the signature of frequency. Have you noticed that too? The timing of certain interactions, the eerie way a mumbled desire rearranges reality, almost as if something overheard it and agreed? You're not here by mistake. If this felt like home, it probably is. Subscribe and stay where the deeper truths live. It's not synchronicity in the romantic sense anymore. It's response without delay. Some might call it coincidence, but that feels too small for what's actually occurring. What used to take weeks of focus now arrives within hours of genuine coherence. A phrase spoken in jest ends up rearranging schedules. A passing curiosity calls forth answers in conversations that weren't meant to be deep. Even silence feels different, more active, more participatory. So how long before thought itself stops feeling like imagination and starts behaving more like architecture? This is what's being tested. Not manifestation through will, but alignment through presence. The shift isn't asking for effort, it's mirroring essence. And that, frankly, changes everything. This isn't about trying harder to shape reality. It's about recognizing that reality is already echoing everything that's been spoken, whispered, or muttered in passing. At this level of energetic precision, tone matters more than technique. The strange part? The field doesn't discern between intention and irony. Sarcasm, frustration, half-hearted jokes, they all imprint. The current state of resonance doesn't ask whether something was meant. It absorbs, reflects, and amplifies. Language is no longer decoration, it's function. And the emotional current behind it? That's the voltage. So imagine what's been floating in the background lately. Those offhand remarks, idle daydreams, or even internal monologues that felt harmless at the time. They weren't just noise, they were seeds. And now things are sprouting. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That an exhausted comment like, "I can't keep doing this," might register not as venting, but as a blueprint. That a fleeting fantasy about change could bend a timeline. That absence of intention doesn't mean absence of effect. In this frequency, words are not requests, they're coordinates. That makes everything spoken part of the formula. The question becomes, what ingredients have been unconsciously tossed in? And more importantly, what's already cooking as a result? Take a second. Rewind. What's been said lately, out loud or in silence, that might now be shaping things faster than expected? The answer might be closer than it seems. If you felt something here, like it was meant just for you, maybe it was. Subscribe. No need to explain it. Just stay. Some desires don't announce themselves through intention. They slip in sideways, clumsy, raw, unfiltered, surfacing not because they were planned, but because something deeper has finally stopped hiding. The atmosphere right now doesn't require precision to respond. It responds to authenticity. And when feedback becomes this immediate, when reflection outpaces thought, presence becomes the only real advantage. But here's where it gets strange. What if clarity doesn't arrive as peace? What if it storms in like static, revealing contradictions that were always present, just dimmed down to tolerable levels? That's the texture of this moon. It doesn't refine, it exposes. There's a tension snapping across the field. Not chaos exactly, but a splitting current that insists on polarization. Truth or illusion, structure or collapse. The in-between is vanishing. There's a sense of being drawn in opposite directions, insight and doubt, trust and retraction, light and shadow. And in that friction, the fault lines of old narratives are becoming visible. Not all clarity soothes. Some clarity stings, like realizing the foundation never actually settled or that certainty was built on agreement, not truth. That's the gift in the discomfort. So what now? When every choice feels magnified, when inner stillness flips into restlessness without warning, when a thought carries the weight of a decision, how does one move forward? Maybe it's not about forcing direction, but about accepting the contrast. The moon in this state doesn't offer comfort. It offers a spotlight. Everything is under review. Every belief, every assumption, every wish. And if it feels like something is pressing from the inside out, maybe that's not pressure, it's emergence. And if that sounds too esoteric, ask this. When was the last time a breakthrough felt gentle? This isn't confusion. It's the brightness before form settles into shape. Lately, there's been a strange shift in gravity. Some people aren't just being seen, they're being noticed. Conversations slow when they speak. Spaces reconfigure themselves around their presence. And what's wild is, this isn't charisma in the traditional sense. It's not showmanship, it's frequency. Something about this lunar window is amplifying identity, not the curated version, but the version that's been quietly waiting to step forward. The roles people have unconsciously played, background filler, silent observer, second choice, are being reevaluated by forces that don't ask for permission. This isn't confidence for the sake of attention. It's a return to the center of one's own orbit. The sensation of being watched, that's not paranoia. It's alignment being recognized. And what happens next is where things get cinematic. Those who have spent a lifetime shrinking to make others more comfortable, find themselves leading without trying. It might start subtly, an unexpected compliment, a moment of intuitive authority, an outfit that doesn't blend in the way it used to. The world isn't just reflecting self-image now, it's amplifying it. And maybe for the first time, the feedback loop doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like permission. This moon isn't rewarding effort, it's magnifying resonance. Ever noticed how the spotlight sometimes finds the person who isn't even reaching for it? That's what this is, a subtle hijack of expectation, a cosmic casting decision that favors rawness over polish. So here's a thought. What if visibility isn't something to chase, but something to surrender to? Because in this scene, it's not about being ready, it's about being real. Lately, there's been a strange shift in gravity. Some people aren't just being seen, they're being noticed. Conversations slow when they speak. Spaces reconfigure themselves around their presence. And what's wild is, this isn't charisma in the traditional sense. It's not showmanship, it's frequency. Something about this lunar window is amplifying identity. Not the curated version, but the version that's been quietly waiting to step forward. The roles people have unconsciously played, background filler, silent observer, second choice, are being reevaluated by forces that don't ask for permission. This isn't confidence for the sake of attention. It's a return to the center of one's own orbit. The sensation of being watched, that's not paranoia, it's alignment being recognized. And what happens next is where things get cinematic. Those who have spent a lifetime shrinking to make others more comfortable should find themselves leading without trying. It might start subtly, an unexpected compliment, a moment of intuitive authority, an outfit that doesn't blend in the way it used to. The world isn't just reflecting self-image now, it's amplifying it. And maybe for the first time, the feedback loop doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like permission. This moon isn't rewarding effort, it's magnifying resonance. Ever noticed how the spotlight sometimes finds the person who isn't even reaching for it? That's what this is, a subtle hijack of expectation, a cosmic casting decision that favors rawness over polish. So here's a thought. What if visibility isn't something to chase, but something to surrender to? Because in this scene, it's not about being ready, it's about being real. Lately, there's been a strange shift in gravity. Some people aren't just being seen, they're being noticed. Conversations slow when they speak. Spaces reconfigure themselves around their presence. And what's wild is, this isn't charisma in the traditional sense. It's not showmanship, it's frequency. Something about this lunar window is amplifying identity. Not the curated version, but the version that's been quietly waiting to step forward. The roles people have unconsciously played, background filler, silent observer, second choice, are being reevaluated by forces that don't ask for permission. This isn't confidence for the sake of attention. It's a return to the center of one's own orbit. The sensation of being watched, that's not paranoia. It's alignment being recognized. And what happens next is where things get cinematic. Those who have spent a lifetime shrinking to make others more comfortable, find themselves leading without trying. It might start subtly, an unexpected compliment, a moment of intuitive authority, an outfit that doesn't blend in the way it used to. The world isn't just reflecting self-image now, it's amplifying it. And maybe for the first time, the feedback loop doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like permission. This moon isn't rewarding effort, it's magnifying resonance. Ever noticed how the spotlight sometimes finds the person who isn't even reaching for it? That's what this is. A subtle hijack of expectation, a cosmic casting decision that favors rawness over polish. So here's a thought. What if visibility isn't something to chase, but something to surrender to? Because in this scene, it's not about being ready, it's about being real. Beneath all the motion and intensity, there's a quieter current threading through this lunar phase. Something subtler than transformation, but no less profound. The atmosphere be buzzing, dramatic even, but beneath that outer charge, a recalibration is taking place. Not a crisis disguised as growth, but a kind of unannounced balancing. It doesn't push, it doesn't demand declarations of purpose or force a confrontation with pain. It simply hums in the background, adjusting the system gently, like tuning forks bringing frequencies back into harmony. And maybe, just maybe, this kind of shift doesn't require participation in the usual way. What if some healing arrives not because it was sought, but because it was time? There's a strange softness emerging inside the chaos. It's not a collapse, it's an opening, and it doesn't need explanation. That warm rush in the chest, that wave of quiet emotion that appears uninvited, that strange sense of release that shows up in silence. Those aren't signs of confusion. They're evidence. Restoration can come without ceremony. It can arrive without a trigger. What if this moment is not about fixing something broken, but remembering something intact? This portal doesn't ask for endurance. It asks for surrender, not to hardship, but to stillness. And if there's a voice inside saying, "This is unfamiliar," good. Let it be unfamiliar. Let it be softer than expected. Let it rewrite the story that says peace must be earned through pain. Maybe now is the part where healing stops proving itself and simply is. Can you feel that shift? It's quiet, but it's real. The impact doesn't always strike at the height of the event. Sometimes the real rupture waits for the echo. That's what makes this cycle so unusual. While attention drifted after the climax, the energy didn't recede. It coiled. It built pressure. And now, as the calendar turns to the day after, the atmosphere isn't settling. It's recalibrating through force. This isn't an afterthought. It's a delayed ignition. Everything that stirred in whispers on the 6th now moves like a verdict. Clear, irreversible, and louder than before. It's a reversal of expectation. While many anticipated stillness, the system decided to accelerate. This is the kind of moment where stillness feels electric, not calm. Thoughts stretch themselves into full form. Uncertainty becomes action. And there's a pull, not external, but internal, towards something that feels simultaneously new and inevitable. The nervous system picks it up before the mind does. A tightness in the lungs, a flicker behind the eyes, a sudden knowing that something is converging. Reality itself feels re-angled, as if the architecture of the ordinary has been momentarily edited. And in that new geometry, things become visible that were previously cloaked in noise. Ever had a moment where the silence says more than the words? That's this. But what's most striking isn't the shift, it's the precision. The full moon's energy isn't messy this time, it's targeted. And that targeting brings revelation, sometimes through chaos, but often through simplicity. A casual comment detonates a truth. An accidental moment reveals an entire pattern. The veils aren't just thin, they're absent. This is when subtle guidance turns unmistakable. There's a timing to it that feels uncanny, almost designed. So ask yourself, have the signs been stacking in strange, effortless ways? Because the impression that something is noticing and gently manipulating outcomes is not just projection, it's participation. What if this is the moment when the script turns in real time? And what if, just maybe, it already has? There's a different kind of circuitry at play now, not just background energy humming passively, but something more engaged, more sentient. Patterns aren't just showing up, they're responding. Numbers repeating like drum beats, names resurfacing from forgotten chapters, phrases looping through conversations, billboards, song lyrics all at once. Dreams refusing to dissolve by morning. The structure of reality itself seems to be listening, and not in a vague poetic sense, but almost technologically, like a network tuned into emotional frequency, feeding responses back with eerie precision. Some call it divine timing, others call it feedback. Either way, the system is speaking, and it's personal. What makes this moment unique is that it doesn't rely on interpretation, it relies on engagement. The symbols aren't passive, they shift based on attention. A glance, a decision, an emotional pivot, and the symbols pivot too. Someone mentions something offhandedly, and later it shows up in 3 more forms before nightfall. That's not repetition, that's choreography. The code is running live, which raises the question, are the signs being followed or are they following? Maybe it's both. Maybe what's being called guidance isn't just directional, it's conversational. And if that's true, then meaning doesn't come from understanding every detail. It comes from noticing the rhythm. So take a moment. What's been chasing visibility in strange, subtle ways? What keeps showing up, not loudly but persistently? That isn't coincidence. That's design. It doesn't always announce itself with drama. Sometimes the most pivotal shifts arrive like an exhale, barely audible, yet unmistakably final. That's what this moment feels like. Not just a lunar cycle, but a crossing. And for those tuned in, the threshold has already been touched. There's a strange sense of readiness in the air, not rushed or forced, but quiet, like something has already been decided beneath the surface. Old strategies begin to unravel, not because they failed, but because they simply don't apply anymore. What once required proving now demands presence. The architecture of effort collapses into something softer, something truer. Does that resonate at all? This new level doesn't reward control, it responds to resonance. There's no more proving worth by exhaustion or defining purpose through productivity. The system is shifting from pressure to precision, from surviving to listening. Thoughts are moving differently. Emotions are speaking more directly. The body knows it before the mind does. And if the old methods start to feel like ill-fitting clothes, that's not regression, it's release. There's no manual for crossing a threshold like this. There's only alignment. So here's the real question. What if evolution doesn't look like striving forward, but like returning inward? And what if the change that's already underway doesn't need activation, just permission?